Well, the general rule for pilots were, if the ship was anchored well off, we would take a pilot out to the ship, board him, and then stand by till the ship heaved up, and then followed her in through Garrison Point. There we would connect, or one of the other tugs would connect, and we'd take it up to the berths. Other than that, they normally boarded by the medium-sized ships from their own boat. But beyond the Little Nore, their boat wasn't allowed to go, so we used to take them in one or other of the tugs to keep the jobs going.
And they used to give you a token of...
They used to, some of them used to slip a half a crown in the box.
Yeah. What did you do with that money? Was that...
Shared it out between the boys eventually.
Yeah. And how many ships would you work in a typical 24-hour shift?
Well, it just depends on the type of cargo they were coming. I mean, tanks would come in empty, and they'd, in the morning, and muck about, and you'd take them off in the evenings. Others would stay days till they were fully loaded. Other ships it was only tidal work. You see, a Ridham dock, you might get perhaps two or three on a tide. You couldn't get any more because tidal conditions would change, and you couldn't either run the risk of taking them up if you lose the tide. That was it.
Yeah. So it was a question of working the tides.
Working the tides all the time.
How did you cope going through Garrison Point on a big spring tide? Did you have to time it so that it was slack water, or did you sort of surf your way in through?
No. If the tide was coming away, you just adjusted your bearing, as it were. If the tide was pressing you as it comes down, it presses you into Garrison Point and also into the barriers towards the Isle of Grain. You just have to manipulate your steering to hold yourself steady. If the tide was running hard and a ship was coming in, well, then he was coming in on the ebb, he would take a tug down just below the Little Nore. So when you come into Garrison Point, the tide sets him in towards the Isle of Grain, and you hang on to the port bow and straighten him round. As soon as he starts to come, you move back again, ahead, because you're not towing the ship, you're only assisting, you see. And in theory, you wait for the pilot signals, but once you've learned the practice, you get in position just before he signals he wants you to put weight on the ship to straighten her up, because otherwise they would just go straight, because the tide sets down towards Garrison Point and then goes to the Isle of Grain till that bank is clear. Then of course it runs down the river all off to the east.
So when you signalled in the early days, signalling with the pilots was done how?
Whistle.
Always a whistle. Not hand signals.
Oh, you might be do hand signal as well, but it's a whistle.
Yeah. Did one tug take the lead, or was it up to the pilot just to decide?
Depends. If it had two tugs ahead, and he would blow two to the port one and one to the starboard one.
Right.
If you only blowed one whistle, you wouldn't do anything. If you blowed two, you do the work and he wouldn't do anything. He'd just idle his position. That's only on big ships. Because as soon as you got round, as soon as you got a breast rev out, you had to get out the way, otherwise you'd be trapped. You wouldn't get under the ropes. Head ropes, that is.
when you first started, in, what was it, 1952,
God, I don't know what it was. I don't know. Yeah, something like that.
the grain hadn't been built, so what sort of jobs were you doing there?
Well, Ridham Dock mostly. It started with the fact that they had to leave a tug at Queenborough, see,
Instead of Rochester?
instead of as well as Rochester, because of the time delay. If anything occurred, and to get a tug from Rochester would take about an hour before it got down the river. And we used to berth on Queenborough Pier and just muster for an ordinary day. And then if anything happened, the telephone would ring up we had a telephone installed in the old railway station. And we would carry out whatever it was, a job, or wait for somebody to coming up into Ridham Dock.
So those early days were not shift work then?
No, we just used to muster a normal day, and anything that occurred during that period, we were there, you see, because it really it was only on the tides that you got to worry about. Ridham Dock was just always flood tide jobs, you see. Didn't do much on the ebb. Too dicey.
Which way did the tide flow on the ebb at Ridham then? Eastwards or?
Both ways.
Oh, it went both ways.
You see, it actually went past the dock, and some went east towards Faversham way, and the rest come slightly out. After a certain time, it came down the swale.
Right.
See, it had to wait, coming down the swale, it had to wait until the tide in the river had ebbed. All the time it was flowing. It reached high water up in Ridham. It couldn't come out until that tide started to ebb. Then, of course, it was going away towards the east after the high water time, and then gradually it would then change, and these it had come down both ways.
So when you're working a ship on flood tide into Ridham, you would actually have the tide under you.
Underneath it.
Yeah, so you lost a bit of steerage for that.
Well, no, that was the reason to have the tug on, to steer the ship, because of so many bends. When you're coming up, the tide is going into the bend.
Right.
And if you didn't have a tug on the port bow, for instance, he would just go straight into the marsh, because there's not enough room for him to turn, you see.
Yeah.
He just can't come in and go out of port and come round the corner. It just wouldn't do. You just got to ease it down, and you just take the weight. You don't actually tow them. It's just the weight. As soon as you see the ship coming towards you, you straighten up, because the next reef is straight, you see. You don't actually tow them unless it's a beast of a ship, and then you've got to put a bit of weight on. And the pilot would blow, you see, because he knows that you know what you're doing, in theory.
What about when they built grain? You were on you were on the Kent then, weren't you? And did you tow the barges in with the tang that they come to shore, or?
Well, a lot of that, yeah. A lot of it was powered barges, but we used to tow some, because there was a dredger going, and they had their own boats, you see, at their own craft. We occasionally did something with them. But they moved themselves and
Right.
had their own craft. Too expensive otherwise, you see.
It's a big job, I guess. And what about what was the crew in, say on the Kent? How many people did you have on? Five people. What on their job?
That's the mate, the captain, the mate, the deckhand, and two engineers. And two, so that's just the two on the deck and the two engineers, you see.
And where could you go? Where were you permitted to travel by? To work? What area?
Oh, anywhere. Within the Thames Estuary and the southern North Sea, and across to the continent, near continent.
Right.
You couldn't go up too high on the continent, or too low towards Spain. So.
And who placed that restriction on?
Board trade.
It was the Board of Trade, not insurance or.
Oh, well, that board incorporated in insurance. The license really was for that area, you see.
Yeah.
It bordered so far up the east coast, so far down the south. And a little bit of Ostend, roughly across there, as far as the first port in Holland.
And then later you had tugs with fire monitors on.
Yeah.
What happened? Did you have many call-outs?
No, only local. Yeah, we had attended several, but they were handled by the only stood by them. We did use water on some of them just to keep the decks cool, you see.
Mm. And what about salvage jobs? Did you get many salvage jobs that you can remember?
Well, quite a few, but we didn't get much money out of them. Company did, we didn't get much money. It was just another job. Yeah, we did quite a few. Mainly breakdowns and things like that. Steerage problems.
I remember looking out of the Delamark Road School window when there was a big tanker stuck on the sand
Yeah,
in the middle of the
on
estuary.
the middle anchorage.
Yeah.
Mm. They used to go there, but they sometimes misjudged it, you see, and when the tide went away, they grounded it. Because it's very shallow there, so it's patchy.
Mm.
They used to bring to what they called the Little Nor anchorage, where it's only really for small ships, not even medium-sized ships. They were down the main anchorage. And even those could touch the shore on the Shoeburyness side if they anchored too close when they moved in the strain. Not all the pilots were familiar with that area, you see, as they grew. Especially they're all ex-masters, but they weren't belonging to that area, if you see what I mean. They had to learn that as if they were.
Did they have a training period, a new pilot?
All pilots, yeah, they trained, yeah. Oh yeah, used to come in, and they used to have so many trips to go in the tug.
Oh,
and he'd stay in the tug with us, and we'd pick up and connect, you see, through his knowledge, you see.
Mm.
So he knew what you were doing when he was up there.
Yeah.
Oh yes,
Right.
we
Make sure it's got
did a lot of young fellows who come in to learn pilotage and that, you see. Oh, yeah. If they didn't just come in and go out and hop on board, they had to be. They went with a senior, a man senior to them, you see.
Yeah.
And they were satisfied, and they were all had master certificates, you see.
Mm.
They packed up the sea, as it were.
What about the night of the time of the East Coast floods? Can you remember much about that? Were you on duty then?
Yeah, we were on duty everywhere was water. I just remember that. I know we were lying on Queenborough Jetty.
Were you expecting it?
They were expecting big tides, yeah. But it was the wind that caused the tide to bottle up between over the marsh. And of course all the marshes disappeared and you had to know. All the poles disappeared. We used to have poles up there once upon a time, but they fell over and nobody ever replaced them.
Was there a river authority then in charge? Like,
Oh yeah. So part of the Ports Authority and also the the people up at Rochester, the
Conservative?
Conservative. That's right. Yeah. They used to come round a bit. We used to work for them actually. I did a lot of, when those flood was on. I was assigned to the little Fearnought. I was mate with Mark. And we brought the little motor tug, and for quite a few days, weeks, or something like that, I had to run the tug from Gwynborough, pick up surveyors, and go all round those marshes, all round towards Righam Dock and round there, beyond Righam Dock, and it was in somebody else's area, see, down there. And then up Stanger Creek, all through those roads, because I knew it, you see, nobody else knew it, because I'd done all that with Grandad Bailey, you see, because we was always roaming round there. When they went down, did their shift and did the work, then they'd go looking for driftwood, planks and things like that, and used to go all around all those creeks with the naffy boat, because they knew it, you see. And we'd come out the other end at Nor Marsh. We'd go in Stanger Creek, somewhere like that, wander through and come up the other end, and through Nor Marsh.
They're up to Ottram Key and
Past Ottram Key, yeah. Didn't go into Ottram Key and come past that. It's very shallow in there. When we get in there on a tide, very shallow. You come through Nor Marsh. There's a channel through to the lower end. Used to be, I suppose it is now. The sailing barges used to come down.
what about, did you work with the Navy at all before 1960? Yeah.
1960. I don't know. It might be in the book.
It's the engineer's mess.
I always worked with anything to do with dockyard. They used to give us jobs.
You did?
Yeah.
Because eventually you moved to the gun wharf.
Yeah, that was.
Was the Navy still in?
Yeah.
In there then?
The gun wharf was
The generator.
limited to pilot boats and
Here's the main engine.
anything to do with the seagoing soldiers that used to be there. What they call that regiment?
Marines?
No, they were soldiers in the forts and. And later they got civilians in them.
Engineer's log.
That fort for a waste of money, really, when they put them up. They were never used. They built them for protection, you see. I don't know what the idea was. No, once upon a time you had to get permission to go on the gun wharf. It was customs officers only, because they were highly suspicious of anybody else. Till they got to know us, and then they were all in line, ready for a fiddle. Yeah, of course. Once upon a time, they wouldn't allow anybody other than the pilot boats and the dockyard craft to use that lower area.
And the old ship, the Cornwallis,
Oh, that was another ship.
that became a really used
Starter tank.
the larger
Oh,
tank.
the jetty. They moved the Cornwallis by then. Big old thing it was. I did that a lot. We used to have one in Gibraltar as well, a big old wooden warship it was. I think they did it everywhere.
These are the air tanks that used for
Cornwallis
storing
was the one
back
in
there for
Gibraltar.
starting. More on the
And
side.
I remember it was a lot of, on a quiet day, you do a certain amount of painting and
Oh,
maintenance.
yeah.
How much of that was expected and
visual
how
and
much
bell.
was required?
No, that was both really. in order, as it were, and also tried. You see, we had a tug that was always smart and efficient. Both of them, when we had two down there. When they were idle, they used to just pick a little bit, chip and paint, and a couple of hours a day, not a lot. Otherwise, they just sit round and smoke all the time. There were 6, I think, in the crew. 6, was it? 6. If we had to go tow a barge in, they used to give an extra one.
Is that so you could have a watch system?
It's got a certain number to keep it on. Can't do it all yourself all the time.
Navigating, when you started, you had a chart and a compass.
I had to go down below in the cabin to do that. Couldn't do it in the wheelhouse, wouldn't have room.
Did you have a direction finder, or
No.
so just literally a chart and a compass
Chart.
and a log?
Chart and the compass and a stream of log,
You
yes.
streamed a log. Didn't even have a built-in
Oh,
log.
no, just a stream.
And timetables. Did you have timetables,
Oh,
or
no.
did you just do that by?
No, we would get a tide table to do it down in the I think it's Captain's cabin. There's a chart table down there in Kent. Tide had nothing.
When would you start navigating on paper? I mean, normal run-of-the-mill trips you just did.
It's best for you to have that knowledge even in the river,
Yeah.
not just depend on
Eyesight.
what you think you know, eyesight and all that, you see. I mean, Queenborough, you always come into Queenborough on the compass. You don't steer up because it changes, you see. The mud changes. All the various spring tides was the worst, you see, because it was run quite hard there. You shoot so much mud, it was sandy mud actually. Not blue mud, and like most parts in the deep water, it's blue mud, clay.